So hello and welcome to Let's Talk SEO. So Google has made a major update, or let's say close to 500 word update, but a very important update to their ranking drop documentation. Now, if Google is so, I don't know, if Google is so confident that they're only ranking high quality sites and they can tell whether the quality of a site is great or if it's not great or if it's excellent even, and rank the highest quality sites on the number 1, 2, and 3 spots, then there is absolutely no need to have this type of documentation. But apparently Google has maintained this type of documentation for quite a while in my experience, and they've, as of late, if you're not aware, made a change to their ranking drop documentation, which attempts to explain why your rankings might have dropped and what you can do to go about fixing it. Now, I always tell clients as an SEO that has been doing this forever, almost, that if you're seeing a gradual decline in your traffic, and the decline has been for the past year, 2 years, then no amount of SEO for 4 months or 3 months is going to reverse that. It's a long process, and it's even longer and it's even harder if you've been penalized by an update. So if you think that you could just hire an SEO, regardless of how good they are, they're not going to reverse something that's been declining for the past year in 3 months. It's just not going to happen, because usually the decline is for a number of reasons. It could be content, it could be technical SEO issues, it could be internal linking issues, it could be all of those issues, in addition to the fact that you have absolutely no authority and you have absolutely no value in your content. And so if that's your website, regardless if it's an e-commerce store or if you're a service-based website, if it's absolutely crap, then even an SEO cannot work wonders on it. But that's beside the point, and I digress. So apparently, I'm just going to go through the changes here, because a lot of what Google is saying is absolutely BS. But they have to say this BS so that SEOs like us don't figure out exactly what they're trying to do, even though through testing we know quite a bit. So the first change is downplays fixing traffic drops. Okay, not sure what that means, but the opening sentence has been changed. And so the opening sentence of the documentation has been changed. So it offers less hope for bouncing back from algorithmic traffic drop. Google also joined 2 sentences into 1 sentence, so they really shortened it, for lack of a better word. And the documentation previously said that most ranking drops can be reversed, and that identifying the reasons for a drop aren't straightforward. The part about most of them can be reversed was completely removed. And so I read this. I remember this part of the documentation because I read it maybe a year ago, and a lot of my clients were, they were pointing to the documentation. They were like, Google says that if you find what's wrong with your site, you just need to fix it and it will be reversed. And even back then, that was not true. Even if you know exactly what's wrong with your site and you fix it, you're not going to reverse it right away. It will take time, and it's because Google's search algorithm takes time to trust your site. It takes time to crawl your site. It takes time to reindex your site. It takes time to, build the connections to your site that helps establish that it's credible. Now, granted, all right. So I'm not talking about people that hack it. So there are websites that hack it and have absolutely no authority and crap content and rank. And I'm not talking about those websites, because we all know that you can game Google is not something that is a mystery. But this is what Google is telling us, and this is what I tell my clients as someone who doesn't experiment with their websites, that don't expect your site to turn around overnight. Through 3 months, it's not going to turn. Even if you hire the biggest SEO agency on earth, it's just not going to happen. In fact, the big SEO agencies are actually the worst types of agencies you can hire for your SEO. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, try hiring one and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So the next one is security or spam issues. So Google updated the traffic graph illustrations so that they're precisely aligned with the cause of each kind of traffic decline. The previous version of this was a site level technical issue, manual, strong, algorithmic changes. And so they had these graphs. I'll show you this on the screen that they shared, and you could refer to figure out, if it's an algorithmic drop, if it's a manual action, or, just look at your GSC and try to compare it with those graphs. And the problem with the previous label is that the manual action and the strong algorithmic changes are not technical issues. Yeah, obviously. And so they've updated now to what reads as large drop from an algorithm update and site-wide security spam issues, which I think is a lot more precise, but at the same time, they kind of look the same. So if you're hit by a manual action, or if it's an algorithmic drop, that drop sort of looks the same. So it's hard to tell. But with the manual action, if you go to GSC and you go and click, on the left, and you'll see that it kind of tells you if it's a manual action. So if you don't see a manual action in your GSC, it's safe to assume that if you see the same thing, then it's an algorithmic hit. The third one changed to the documentation is the technical issue. So there is no change to a graph. Also, it's more accurate. So technical issues across your sites and changing interest. Now, previously, what this is the page level technical issues. So they had a graph about this, I assume. So the page level technical issues, they had a graph about this, and they showed how a technical issue looked on a graph. And so if you check your GSC, you should see this. So technical issues across your site and changing interest. So now they've changed the labeling. I think the labeling, again, is a little more accurate, but it's, I have my reservations about it. The third one is Google adds new guidance for algorithmic changes. And this is the funny one, in my opinion, because it says they've added two new categories. So they've added small drop in position, for example, dropping from position 2 to 4, and large drop in position, for example, dropping from position 4 to 29. So here's a new guidance for this. So the algorithm with Google is always improving how it assesses content and updating its search ranking and serving algorithms accordingly. Core updates and other smaller updates may change how some pages perform in search results. We post about notable improvements to our system and our list of ranking pages. Check to see if there's anything that's applicable to your site. If you suspect a drop in traffic is due to an algorithmic update, it's important to understand that there might not be anything fundamentally wrong with your content. To determine this, whether you need to make the change, review your top pages in Google Search Console and assess how they're ranking. So this is the one of the funny things over here is that they say that it's important to understand that there might not be anything fundamentally wrong with your content. So your content might be great. You might have great content. Everything is great. Human written, optimized. Internal links are all great. But at the end of the day, you could still be hit, and Google doesn't have it. There's no responsibility. And so they say to figure out why you might have been hit, go to Google Search Console, plug in your page, and see where it has dropped off. Like, that's gonna help. That is not gonna help. That's not gonna tell you anything about your page. It'll just tell you that your page has declined. Will not tell you why your page has declined. But there are other ways of doing this. I might make a video about how to go about figuring out what Google does not like about your pages and why they're not ranking. But this is usually because Google has favored another site, like let's say Reddit or Quora, which does a lot of, and so you can have great content, you can have expert written content, you can have a doctor write your content, but you'll still see a drop in your rankings. So it's a small drop in position, for example, dropping from position 2 to 4, and a large drop in position from 4 to 29. So keep in mind that positions aren't static or fixed in place. Google's search results are dynamic in nature because the open web itself is constantly changing with new and updated content. This content change can cause both gains and drops in organic traffic. Yeah, I call BS on that because I have seen some websites just stick to the number 1 spot, number 2 spot, number 3 spot forever. And regardless of how many backlinks you build and how great your website is, and whatever you do, you just can't get past that website. And that's because Google has a system in place, which is called domain authority, which is called domain value. And that perceived value of the domain means that it will always rank on top. And so regardless of what you do, you're not going to beat it. And this is across many industries, but especially the YMYL industry. And so if you happen to be one of the niches, well, sayonara to your rankings. So small drop in position. So a small drop in position where there is a small shift in position in the top results. Position is dropping 2 to 4 for a search query. In Search Console, you might see a noticeable drop in traffic without a big change in impressions. Small fluctuations in positions can happen at any time, including moving up a position without needing to do anything. In fact, we recommend avoiding making radical changes to your page if it's already performing well. Well, if you drop from position 2 to 4, there's a significant drop in your traffic. And this I can say for sure. If you've gone from position 4 to 2, there's a significant increase in your traffic. And this is across many industries, especially the e-commerce industry. So if you're competing against other e-commerce stores and for the same item and you're selling the same stuff, if you're in position 4, you're going to sell less than if you were in position 1 or 2. That's just a fact. Now, Google says there's nothing you can do about it. Well, there's a lot you can do about it. I've helped businesses that were stuck on position 4 forever, regardless of what they did. And when they jump on position 4 to 2, it was because we did good SEO on their site. And when they jump on position 2 to 1, it's because we did good SEO on their site. Yes, it's something that takes several months to achieve because it's very hard to change Google's mind once it has these top positions stuck in, or kind of like written in stone. But once you get to the top spot, you can pretty much hold on to it. My clients hold on to the position 1 and 2 spot. And the only fluctuations they see is if there's a Google algorithm update. And even then, it just goes back to where things were. And yeah, so there's absolutely no value here. So drop in position. So a large drop in position is when you see a noodle drop out of the top results for a wide range of terms. For example, dropping from the top 10 results to 29 position, to position 29. In cases like this, self-assessment, your whole website overall, not just individual pages, to make sure it's helpful, reliable, and people first. If you made changes to your site, it may take time to take effect. Some changes may take effect in a few days, while others might take several months. For example, it may take months before our system determines that a site is not producing helpful content in the long term. In general, you'll likely wait a few weeks to analyze your search site and to analyze your site in Search Console again to see this if your efforts had beneficial effect on your ranking position. Keep in mind there is no guarantee that changes you make to your website will result in noticeable impact in search results. If there is more deserving content, we'll continue to rank with our systems. And the funny part is that, you know, if you've self-assessed and you fixed everything on your site, your content is great. Again, I mean, it might not rank for several months. And there's no telling even if it might rank. And so there's no guarantee from Google. And this is the funny part, because then why would you do quality content if there's no guarantee that you're going to rank, or if there's no prospect that you're going to rank? I mean, why would you even think about doing quality content? There's absolutely no reason for you to do it. But there is a lesson here for a lot of people that seek SEO services, is that, you know, don't expect to see changes right away. Don't expect to see changes overnight. If that's your expectation, don't hire an SEO. Don't waste your money on, you know, hiring someone to do the SEO for you, because you're just going to give up after 2 or 3 months, and then the money you spent has been lost. So don't do that. So trivial changes. The rest of the changes are relatively trivial, but nevertheless, they're make the documentation. So that talks about moving your site. And so that's just about it. So that's the changes to the documentation. If you have not read the documentation, there's a link in the description to the documentation. I would highly recommend that you read the traffic drop documentation, the ranking drop documentation, because it tells you so much. It's funny, it's entertaining, and even if it doesn't help you rank your site, you know, you probably won't feel sad about losing rankings. So I hope you guys like the video. Like and subscribe, and as always, I will see you in the next video.